Cristiano Ronaldo just broke the record for the most men's international appearances of all time. And this got me thinking, with my giant noggin over here, who are the other insane players on this list near Cristiano Ronaldo, who has 198 caps as of March 2023? Well, we've got the top 20 for you. It's actually a top 19 because there is a tie for 19th. And the first player checking in at a whopping 164 appearances for their nation is Luka Modric. He's obviously still going, so he's probably going to have more. Luka Modric, if you don't know him, what have you been doing for the last 15 years? The former Tottenham star turned into so many Champions League wins, I can't even count them at Real Madrid. Midfielder also won the Ballon d'Or, breaking a streak of more than a decade that either Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo had been the only people to win the award. He is one of the most relevant players over the last 2 decades and has led Croatia on multiple deep runs at the World Cup. If you don't know who this is, you shouldn't be starting your ball knowledge with this video. He broke into Croatia's national team in 2006 and has scored 23 goals in his 164 appearances, and you can bet your bottom dollar he's going to keep playing for Croatia for at least another year or two. The player he is tied with, however, much less known, at least to people my age and younger. Kobe Jones of the United States of America also has 164 senior caps. The 5'7" midfielder from Detroit, Michigan had a brief spell in Europe playing for Coventry City in the 94-95 season, but he made his home at the LA Galaxy, making over 300 appearances and scoring 70 goals for the MLS Giant. But where he really shined was his incredibly decorated international career. He went to the Summer Olympics in 1992 in Barcelona, was part of 3 World Cup rosters for the United States in 94, a World Cup the United States hosted, then 98 and 2002. He also brought home the 2002 Gold Cup for the United States. Kobe Jones then went into coaching and directing clubs until 2012, and now he works as an analyst and commentator around the MLS, a true legend of the American game. But neither yet have enough appearances to match number 18 on the list. Now, if you have no idea who that is, you probably didn't watch the 2004 European Championships, because that had a very unique participant in it, Latvia, led by their captain, who would end up with 166 caps, Vitalijs Astafjevs. A man who played for his national team across 18 years from 1992 to 2010, Astafjevs did make a pretty significant stop with Bristol Rovers from 99 to 2003. He made 108 appearances in that time, but he was a bit of a club journeyman. But the bulk of his career was in Latvia, where he won 9 Latvian League championships as a player, and as a singular player represents the high watermark for Latvian football in general. Number 17, a very recognizable name, Iker Casillas, at 167 caps for mighty Spain. Iker Casillas played over 500 times for Real Madrid. He broke into the Spanish team in 2000 and was gaining caps until 2016, when he finally fell out of the Spanish national team for good while at Porto. He was part of Spain's unbelievable and perhaps unreplicatable run in the modern game of winning the Euros, the World Cup, and then the Euros again in one consecutive run. He's inarguably one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time and one of the most recognizable names on any list. Number 16, Ivan Hurtado of Ecuador. When Ivan Hurtado was the youngest player to ever appear for Ecuador in 1992, Ecuador had never qualified for the World Cup, but by 2002, Ecuador was in the World Cup, and not only that, made a second consecutive World Cup with Ivan Hurtado captaining the side. That golden period from 2002 to 2006 was particularly memorable for him because basically right after that he sputtered and began to fall out of the national team until making his last appearance for Ecuador on the 14th of October 2014. But to go from being the youngest ever cap player from your country to actually getting the most caps in the history of your country, could you write a better story? Number 15, at 170 caps, Hossam Hassan of Egypt. Hossam Hassan made his first appearance in 1985 and finally made his last appearance for the national team 21 years later in 2006. Now, if you're Egyptian or you really pay attention to these things, Hossam Hassan is credited in some places with 176 caps, but 6 of those matches were unofficial FIFA matches. They are listed here, just for the sake of accuracy on this. As for the man beyond the numbers, he won the Africa Cup of Nations 3 times and even captained Egypt to an Africa Cup of Nations win while making his final appearances in 2006 at the age of 40. He scored 68 goals for Egypt and is one of the top marksmen internationally of all time. He did all of this while just playing in Europe for only 2 seasons for PAOK Thessaloniki and Xamax from Switzerland, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong. Number 14, you might know this guy, Hassan Al Haidos of Qatar. He checks in at 172 caps, with his last one being Qatar's final match at the World Cup that Qatar was hosting at the end of 2022. If you pay attention to random stuff like this, he's an incredibly recognizable face in the international game. He has been one of the faces of Qatar's build-up in the national team. He has never played outside of Al Sadd in the Qatari Stars League, and he scored 36 goals in his time as well. A technically gifted attacking midfielder who I'm sure is bearing the brunt of Qatar's failure to perform at its own World Cup. He was the man in the captain's armband, after all. But he's the ultimate talisman. You have to respect that. He's been at his club since he was 8 years old and been playing for Qatar since 2008. And he might not be done. He is, after all, only 32 years old. Number 13, Amir Shafi, the goalkeeper from Jordan. He has one more appearance than Hassan Al Haidos at 173. He made his international debut at 20 and was Jordan's primary goalkeeper, obviously, for a stretch of 19 years, with that stretch just coming to an end in 2021. He appeared in 4 Asian Cups and has the unique distinction of being a goalkeeper with an international goal. He took a goal kick against India in 2018 that took an awkward bounce at the edge of the box and actually lobbed the keeper. Congratulations, Amir Shafi. Number 12, and then this is probably, definitely, the most obscure player on this list. A guy named Lionel Messi. I know. He has 174 caps. He is obviously still going and may even want to play at the next World Cup, which could give him a chance to get close to Cristiano Ronaldo, depending on how many more matches Cristiano Ronaldo is going to play. Assuming they both play until they're 75, then this is going to be a race going on for a while. But yeah, it's Lionel Messi. Number 11, Maynor Figueroa of Honduras. Maynor Figueroa was a left-sided central defender who led Honduras to its 2nd and 3rd World Cup appearances of all time. He helped get the team there in 2010, then again in 2014. He also helped Honduras to 7 Gold Cup appearances in his tenure, making the roster obviously for all 7 of them and making just an insane number, try on 175 appearances over a 19-year span, just ending at the 2021 Gold Cup. You might have known him, though, because he was a star turn for Wigan Athletic back in the day. But now his son plays in the Liverpool Academy as a striker. And I know that because I signed him in my Football Manager save. If you want to watch me do stupid stuff like that, you can watch me on Twitch. That brings us to the top 10, and we started off well with Gianluigi Buffon, who I'm assuming his Italian career is done, but made a preposterous 176 appearances for Italy in the process. The guy is still playing in Serie B, even though he's like 67 years old, and he did win a World Cup in 2006, played just about 1,000,001 important matches, and captained the Italian national team for a significant amount of time. His resume is simply unassailable. Number 9. Claudio Suarez from Mexico. The center back notched an insane 177 appearances for the Mexican national team, and that is not an easy national team to keep your spot in. It's even harder to keep your spot there when you don't leave the Mexican League. Now, the Mexican national team loves to draw from the Mexican League, but its real star players are in Europe, and Claudio Suarez was not one of those guys, but he made 177 appearances anyways. He went to the 94 World Cup, the 98 World Cup, and the 2006 World Cup. He missed 2002 because of injury, but this guy was a rock for the Mexican backline for over a decade. Number 8. Mohamed Aldea. Aldea is yet another goalkeeper on this list and yet another player from the Middle East, a part of the world that definitely relies on experience in its national teams. Now he's 50 years old, but the 6'4" goalkeeper who never left the Saudi League made 178 appearances from 1993 to 2006. He won Best Goalkeeper at the Asian Cup twice and helped bring home the 1996 Asian Cup for Saudi Arabia. That Asian Cup win is actually the last one that Saudi Arabia has had. It was with Aldea in goal. Number 7, somebody that you might have also seen at the most recent World Cup, Andres Guardado of Mexico. The midfielder and captain of the Mexican national team somehow made it onto the field in Qatar at the age of 36 as Mexico's spiritual leader. Word is that Andres Guardado's last Mexico appearance was at that World Cup that he has done, but at the age of 36 and still on contract with Real Betis in Spain, he is a player that might just appear one or two more times and maybe creep his way farther and farther up this list. He is sitting at 179 appearances, and that is just one behind number 6, Sergio Ramos. Now, he's been one of the best center backs of a generation, and over 16 years has accumulated a ridiculous 180 appearances for a national team as accomplished as Spain. And at the age of 36, he's still plying his trade with the massive Parisian outfit PSG. Along with Iker Casillas earlier on this list, Sergio Ramos was integral to that World Cup Euros run that Spain had, and he will be remembered forever, not only for that, but for his ability to pick up cards at an astonishing rate. But he didn't make enough appearances to crack the top 5. That's where we find Ahmed Mubarak at number 5 from Oman. The balance of this list between some of the best players ever and some of the best players ever, but for their country specifically, is kind of hilarious. And Ahmed Mubarak obviously falls in this camp. He made 183 appearances for Oman, with his last one coming in just 2019. He made all of those appearances in a 16-year span. He's 38, and he's still playing in the Qatari league, but his time with the national team does seem to have come to a close. As we go to number 4, we go from one midfielder to another. This one, not Ahmed Kano, but Ahmed Hassan of Egypt. Ahmed Hassan made a ridiculous 184 appearances in his career for the Pharaohs. He was part of Egypt's tremendous 3 consecutive championships at the Africa Cup of Nations from 2006 to 2010. And in that 2006 tournament, he scored 4 goals in 6 matches and was named best player in the tournament. The guy was a stud, and he spent some time in Europe with Besiktas and Anderlecht, but started and ended his career in Egypt as well. But now we get to the top 3. The only 3 individuals in the men's international game to make over 190 appearances. And rather remarkably, at this point in the list, we get to the one that happened longest ago. It's Malaysia's Sochin An. He had 195 international appearances and held the record for a really tremendous amount of time before it was broken by people we'll meet later. Sochin An was a center back who made his debut at the age of 19 in 1969. His debut came at something called the King's Cup, which he would eventually lead Malaysia to 3 wins in that competition, which included teams like South Korea and Western Australia and South Vietnam. This was a different era. But the competition was real, and this guy played every game for Malaysia for over 15 years and led Malaysia to some success. Even at the Asian Games in 1974, with Sochin An in the back line, Malaysia won the bronze medal. But he made one less appearance than number 2 on this list, the person whose record was just broken by Cristiano Ronaldo, Badr Al-Mutawa of Kuwait. And Al-Mutawa had just finished setting this mark. His last appearance for Kuwait was the 14th of June, 2022. And that was the appearance that finally broke Sochin An's record for most international appearances ever. Al-Mutawa is a forward who has scored over 300 goals for the one club he's played for since 2002, and that is Qadsiya. He did 2 brief loans away, making 9 appearances with Al Nassr in 2011, but he's been with Qadsiya in Kuwait City since 2002 as the primary owner of his contract, and in that process scored 56 goals in 196 appearances with Kuwait. And he was part of Kuwait's glory years. They won the Arabian Gulf Cup in 2010 and the West Asian Championship in 2010. But what perhaps is most remarkable about Badr Al-Mutawa is that sports professionalism in Kuwait is not fully established, so this guy has another job. He holds the military rank of colonel, and he's also the director of the Security Affairs Department of the Kuwaiti National Assembly Guard. Solid flex that on the weekends, he has the 2nd most caps in men's international history. And of course, number 1 on the list is Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the all-time greats with 198 caps, and it's only fitting that the closest active player on the list behind him is one Lionel Messi. And just another record for those 2 to fight over, sure. If you enjoyed the video, please do hit the subscribe button, and if you want to just keep binge watching stuff, this is a video about a wonder kid that just disappeared. Actually,